Welcome to the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Saturday, November 18th, 2017, and your radio hosts today are Dr. Shadasa Fenner and
Karina Bass.
We will be reading the news for today's edition of the Fayetteville Observer.
Today, the weather should go between 71 and 54 degrees, partly sunny and warmer. Sunday, 62 degrees to 33 degrees at night, mostly sunny and breezy. On Monday, it should start out at 57, and by the end of the day, it should be around 45 degrees, partly sunny. On Wednesday, it should start around 65 degrees, and by the end of the day, it should be 38 degrees, and it'll also be partly sunny.
Need to know. Holiday Jubilee. Experience a Victorian Christmas during the annual Holiday Jubilee at the 1897 Poe House on December 3rd from 1 to 5 p.m. The free event will include a concert by the Coventry Carolers on the front porch at 1:30, 2:30, and 3:30. The Cross Creek Chordsmen also will perform. There also will be free photos with Santa. The house will be decorated for Christmas Tuesday through January 7th. It is open for tours Tuesday through Friday at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Saturdays on the hour from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sundays on the hour from 1 to 4 p.m. For more information, call 486-1330. Holiday shows. Gibbons Performing Arts Center on the campus of the University of North Carolina at Pembroke is presenting 2 holiday performances as part of its 2017-2018 Broadway and More series. Cirque Dreams Holidays is scheduled for Monday at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are $21 to $41 and can be purchased online or by calling the box office. The 9th annual Holiday Extravaganza is December 1st at 8 p.m. The concert raises money for music scholarships at the university. Tickets are $12 for adults and $5 for children. For more information, call 910-521-6361. And our 3rd event is the Barbecue Festival. The 5th annual When Pigs Fly Barbecue Festival is today from noon to 6 p.m. in Festival Park. Music and children's activities also will be featured. General admission is $5. Children under 12 are admitted free. The event is a benefit for the Cumberland County Affiliate of Communities and Schools.
Today in history. Today is Saturday, November 18th, the 322nd day of 2017. There are 43 days left in the year. Today's highlight. On November 18, 1942, the Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder's Pulitzer Prize-winning allegory about the history of humankind opened on Broadway. In 1883, the United States of Canada adopted a system of standard time zones. In 1886, the 21st President of the United States, Chester A. Arthur, died in New York. In 1916, the World War I battle of the Somme pitting British and French forces against German troops ended inconclusively after 4.5 months of bloodshed. In 1928, Walt Disney's first sound-synchronized animated cartoon, Steamboat Willie, starring Mickey Mouse, premiered in New York. In 1936, Germany and Italy recognized the Spanish government of Francisco Franco. In 1976, Spain's parliament approved a bill to establish a democracy after 37 years of dictatorship. In 1978, U.S. Representative Leo J. Ryan DeCalif and 4 others were killed in Jonestown, Ghana, by members of the People's Temple. The killings were followed by a night of mass murder and suicide by more than 900 cult members. In 1987, the Congressional Iran-Contra committees issued their final report, saying President Ronald Reagan bore ultimate responsibility for wrongdoing by his aides. In 1991, Shiite Muslim kidnappers in Lebanon freed Anglican Church envoy Terry Waite and Thomas Sutherland, and the American Dean of Agriculture at American University of Beirut. Birthdays: actress Brenda Vaccaro is 78. Poet Margaret Atwood is 78. Actress Linda Evans is 75. Actress Susan Sullivan is 75. Country singer Jackie Ward is 71. Singer Graham Parker is 67. Actor Delroy Lindo is 65. Comedian Kevin Nealon is 64. Football great Warren Moon is 61. Actress Elizabeth Perkins is 57. Rock musician Kirk Hammett of Metallica is 55. Actor Owen is 49. Actor Mike Epps is 47. Actress Peta Wilson is 47. Actress Chloe Sevigny is 43. Actor/director Nate Parker is 38. Actress comedian Nassim Pedrad is 36. Actress Allison Tolman is 36. And actor Damon Wayans Jr. is 35.
This is the Live Wire Observer staff. Goodyear tires made in Fayetteville are identifiable. Question: my car needs new tires. I want to support the Goodyear plant workers by buying tires made here in Fayetteville. But Goodyear has factories all over the world. Where can I buy the tires made in Fayetteville? Is there some code or serial number I can see on the tires that will tell me they were really made here and not someplace else? This is JBB from Fayetteville. The answer: Goodyear appreciates the support of the local Fayetteville community, said spokesman Richard Evans of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company plant on North Ramsey Street just outside of Fayetteville. Goodyear products are made at 48 sites in 22 countries, Evans said. Tires made here are sold throughout the country, he said, and tires made at Goodyear's other factories are sold here. To figure out if your tires were made at Goodyear's Fayetteville plant, you should look for the tire identification number on the side wall, Evans says. The tire identification number, or TIN, starts with dot and is followed by a 7 to 13 character string of letters and numbers, Evans said. If the first letters after the dot are PJ, then the tire was made at the Fayetteville factory. For example, a tire with the code DOT PJ4335HV1612 was made here. That example comes from a photo of a tire on the TireBuyer.com website, which notes that the 1612 at the end of the TIN shows that the tire in the picture was made in the 16th week of 2012.
Arrest in Cumberland County. Quay Dante Haynes, 600 block of Volunteer Drive, was charged Thursday with 11 counts of fraud, 6 counts of identity theft, and 3 drug violations. Bail was set at $50,000. Ashley Devon Miller, 30 years old, of 300 block of Ray Avenue, was charged Thursday with identity theft, misdemeanor prostitution, misdemeanor resisting an officer, and misdemeanor false report to police station. Bail was set at $10,800. Every Jaquan Gashin, 20 years old, of the 200 block of Nimox Avenue, was charged Thursday with larceny. Bail was set at $1,500. Tommy Jerome Ray Jr., 31, of 2700 block of Alden Drive, was charged Thursday with 2 counts of larceny, 2 counts of possessing stolen goods, and 2 counts of breaking and entering. Bail was set at $25,000. Kareem Jaquane Dennings, 19, of the 600 block of Walker Street, was charged Thursday with 2 counts of breaking and entering, 2 counts of larceny, 2 counts of receiving and transferring stolen vehicles, and conspiracy. Bail was set at $45,000. Jamia Horn, 18, of the 200 block of Bonanza Drive, was charged Thursday with larceny. Bail was set at $1,500. Shaquan David Samuels, 20 years old, of Fayetteville, was charged Thursday with 4 counts of robbery with a dangerous weapon and larceny. Bail was set at $52,500. Robin McCaskill Price, 48, of the 1900 block of Ridgewood Street, was charged Thursday with larceny, possessing stolen goods, and breaking and entering. Bail was set at $2,500. Break-ins. Wildwood Drive, 1100 block, reported at 4:02 a.m. Thursday. Nothing reported taken from residents.
Thanksgiving travel could break records. Gas prices these days are a bit higher than what we've been accustomed to, but apparently that won't stop folks from traveling on Thanksgiving. Auto Club AAA Carolinas expects record-breaking travel in the Carolinas on Thursday. AAA predicts 2.1 million from North Carolina and South Carolina will hit the road and travel at least 50 miles from home. That's a 3.3% bump over last year. The club in a news release reports that North Carolina's average price for a gallon of regular is $2.40, which is 32% higher than it was at the same time last year. In South Carolina, the current figure is $2.28, a 44% hike. If you want the easiest time to travel, AAA says, it's the morning of Thanksgiving when traffic is the lightest. The heavy days are the Wednesday prior and the following Sunday. We urge everyone to practice safety behind the wheel. Don't drink and drive, buckle up, avoid speeding, and eliminate distractions. We at Behind the Wheel say amen to all of that advice.
Special Op Commander praises troops. In a small town in Syria, the Islamic State prepared for the end of the world. Dabiq, with a few thousand residents just south of the border with Turkey, had an importance that far outweighed the size of the town itself. According to legend, Dabiq was to be the site of one last epic battle that would end in victory for ISIS and start the end of times. But in fall of 2016, more than 2 years after ISIS took control of the town, a group more than 30 Special Forces soldiers and 150 tribal militants armed with AK-47 rifles systematically cleared Dabiq and the surrounding area of ISIS fighters in a little more than 1 month. It did not cause the end of days, said Maj General James E. Kraft, Jr., who spent more than a year as commander of special operations forcing fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Kraft, the current deputy commander of U.S. Army Special Operations Command, spoke of Dabiq and other recent operations involving Army Special Operators while visiting the Cape Fear chapter of the Military Officers Association of America on Friday. USA SOC, which includes Special Forces, Civil Affairs, Physiological Operations, Rangers, Special Operations, Aviation, and a Sustainment Brigade, has several thousand soldiers in more than 70 countries, Kraft said. But while those troops are engaged around the world, it's groups like MOAA that fight on their behalf at home. In the past year, the local MOAA chapter has raised thousands of dollars to support scholarships for youth grants for local JROTC units and donations to organizations that support troops and their families at Fort Bragg. Kraft praised the organization for its efforts and its advocacy in Washington to protect the benefits, pay the perks of active duty troops and veterans. I'm honored to be here with you all tonight, he said, addressing not only the Cape Fear chapter but also leaders from all 16 chapters of MOAA across North Carolina. Thank you for who you are and what you represent. Kraft told several vignettes about some of the roughly 34,000 Army Special Operators that make up more than half of the nation's Special Operations Forces. Kraft said USA SOC soldiers are in the Pacific and across Central and South America. They are fighting in Afghanistan, where they have been since 2001. Every single night I guarantee right now as we're speaking, we have a Special Forces team in contact with the enemy, Kraft said, against the Taliban and against ISIS right now. And they are in Africa, where groups like Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram are trying to tear apart countries like Niger. We're standing watch there, Kraft said, referring to the country where four 3rd Special Forces group soldiers were killed last month. Kraft said the soldiers in Africa are living on the edge, where help is not always close by. It is inherently a dangerous business, he said. Our folks are out there on the edge every single day because if it matters to the United States, it matters to me. It matters to us, and we're going to be there. Kraft said the USA SOC soldiers are a special breed. They are selected from the best of the Army has and often take more than 2 years to train up to the skill sets required of them. USA SOC soldiers are willing to sacrifice everything they care about in life for their country and the men and women that serve alongside them, Kraft said. You cannot put a price tag on the sort of devotion he said. And while the USA SOC accounts for just 1.4% of the U.S. military's budget, Kraft said, they have a far larger impact. That's a heck of a return on investment, he said. The ongoing efforts in Iraq and Syria are a testament to the impact. Instead of fighting ISIS head-on, Kraft said, the USA SOC soldiers are working by, with, and through local partners that are fighting ISIS on their own turf. ISIS is an evil enemy, he said. One that inspires devotion and a radical mindset whose adherents won't rest until all in the United States are dead and the American way of life is destroyed. We have an uncompromising enemy. It's total war, Kraft said. There is no negotiating, there is no surrender on an aircraft carrier. When fighting such an enemy, Kraft said, America can send its own armies to destroy ISIS, losing U.S. blood and treasure in the process. But that would likely inspire even more to join ISIS's cause, he said, and victories may be hard to maintain without a strong local position to ISIS returning to power. So instead of special operations forces are working to inspire others to take up to the fight, they must do it themselves, Kraft said. We have to go to finding local solutions. Those solutions aren't always as fast as some in the U.S. would like, he said, and they aren't as decisive as tanks and rockets, but so far they have been successful. Kraft noted the recent liberations of Mosul in Iraq and Raqqa in Syria, the largest two cities formerly under ISIS control. In the latter, Kraft said, troops fought against a well-entrenched enemy armed with sophisticated improvised explosive devices and unmanned aerial vehicles that could drop grenades, some containing chemical weapons on allied forces. Through the Syrian Democratic Forces, including Kurdish and Arab troops, Kraft said ISIS is being defeated in Syria. The SDF and coalition fighters have killed more than 32,000 ISIS fighters, he said. And ISIS as a state or caliphate is nearly defeated. That war is going very well, he said, but it's not over. And USA SOC soldiers will be asked to continue to deploy to Iraq and Syria, as well as dozens of other countries around the globe. Business is good, almost too good, Kraft said. USA SOC soldiers account for the majority of the nation's special operations missions, and while the force would prefer to be home three more times than they are deployed, Kraft said soldiers are currently spending on slightly more time at home than they are overseas. That is causing problems with overuse and recruitment and retention, Kraft said. In response, USA SOC has full-time teams of strength coaches, nutritionists, chaplains, and psychiatrists to try to keep soldiers ready and resilient for the missions. He said MOAA's efforts are an important piece of those efforts because they work to ensure families and troops are taken care of. Thank you, Kraft said. Thank you for having our backs. Military editor Drew Brooks can be reached at dbrooks@fayettevilleobserver.com or 910-486-3567.
Bring on the buses. It's been a minute, but the new downtown bus transfer center, aka Multimodal Center, is about ready to go, reports Randy Hum, director of the Fayetteville Area System of Transit. A ribbon cutting is planned for 11 a.m. on November 30th. The center is across From Highsmith Rainey Specialty Hospital, which is on Robeson Street, the center will serve as the main hub. The center will serve as the main hub for city buses and private bus services, including Greyhound. There will be a taxi stand, and the center is a block from the Amtrak train station. It gets its name multimodal from the different modes of travel it offers at a single site. The project, which officials had hoped to open this summer, has been delayed by a few construction setbacks. A city spokesman said the media will get a look during a soft opening scheduled for Monday. Look for some up-close and personal pictures to emerge from that event. Bridge work in Lee County. On November 27th, workers with the North Carolina Department of Transportation will begin replacing a 67-year-old bridge in Lee County. It will require closure of Sandley Drive over Lick Creek. The bridge has become functionally obsolete and no longer meets today's traffic demands, the DOT said in a news release. The $800,212 contract for the work has been awarded to Dan Construction of Mooresville. The bridge is scheduled to be complete by April. Drivers will see detour signs directing traffic from Sandley onto Pumping Station Road, then Poplar Springs Road, then back to Sandley.
Letters to the Observer. Many kinds of cancer abound. As everyone knows, last month was Breast Cancer Prevention Month. But let's not forget there are other cancers you hear very little about, but are just as deadly. During the summer, you hear about protecting your skin from the sun's harmful rays to prevent melanoma. On TV, you were told smoking can cause lung, mouth, or throat cancer. Recently, we've heard about brain cancer and childhood cancer, but have you heard about stomach cancer? November is Stomach Cancer Awareness Month, but you don't hear about it. When you hear the words "you have cancer," no matter what kind, your mind is in a turmoil and your family lives are turned upside down. I know firsthand because I have stomach cancer. There are different color cancer ribbons for cancer. For instance, as everyone knows, pink is for breast cancer, lung cancer is white, childhood cancer is gold, brain cancer is gray, and mine is periwinkle. There are many more colors besides these. I just wanted people to be aware that there are other cancers, some that people are not aware of.
U.S. Representative G.K. Butterfield will administer the oath of office to Mayor-elect Mitch Colvin when the Fayetteville City Council is sworn in on December 4th at J.W. Seabrook Auditorium on the Fayetteville State University campus. I worked with him during Senator Kay Hagan's campaign against Senator Thorne-Tillis a few years ago, said Colvin, 44, who will become this city's 33rd modern-era mayor. He was the former congressman for Fayetteville, and I want to increase our relationship in Washington, D.C. Butterfield, who is 70 years old, is a former North Carolina Supreme Court justice who was elected to Congress in 2004. The swearing-in ceremony is scheduled for 6 p.m., where 5 incumbents return to council seats, 2 former council members are back, and there are 2 political newcomers. My childhood friend, Judge Claire Hill, Kathy Keith Jensen, 52, says about the Cumberland County Superior Court judge who will administer Jensen's oath as a 3-term councilwoman representing District 1 on North Fayetteville. Tyrone Williams, 48, says he'll take his District 2 oath from Cumberland County District Court Judge Tony King as Williams replaces the outgoing Kirk DeVere, who lost out in the mayoral primary. She lives in my district, Tisha Waddell, 38, says about Cumberland County Superior Court Judge Gail Adams, who will do the honors for the District 3 freshman who replaces Colvin. DJ Hare returns to represent District 4 in what will be his 9th turn after stepping aside from 2013 to 2017 with a nagging back. As a part of me saying thank you to my District 4 supporters, I usually let one of my voters swear me in, says Hare, 58. It's my way of giving back, and I'm so honored that Mrs. Sandra Jones Morrissey of my old Ponderosa community will give me my oath. Johnny Dawkins, 58, returns to the council in District 5, where the son of the late J.L. Dawkins, the city's longest-serving mayor from 1987 to 2000, has asked Cumberland County District Court Judge Stephen Stokes to administer his swearing-in when Dawkins will be thinking of his late parents. I think about both of them every day, said Dawkins, who is replacing Bobby Hurst, who chose not to seek another term because of business obligations. Bill Crisp returns for his 5th council term, representing District 6 in West Fayetteville, and Cumberland County District Court Judge Talmadge Badgett will again do the honor, or at least Crisp is hoping as much. This will be his 5th time, says Crisp, who's 77, a Vietnam veteran. One other time in the Cape Fear Botanical Garden, he did not arrive in time, and I asked the city clerk to do so. In recent years, I would ask Mr. Joseph Dyer to hold the Bible for me. Unfortunately, my oldest supporter and mentor, Mr. Dyer, has transcended from mortality. I really do miss him very much. Larry Wright, 59, is back for a 3rd term in District 7. Stokes will be swearing him in as well, he says. Back for a 5th term in District 8, also in the western swing of the city, is Ted Moan. He's 53 years old. He'll take his oath from none other than the new mayor. And Jim Arp, who's 56 years old, who ran unopposed, heads to the council for a 4th term representing District 9. Jim Ammons will be swearing me in, Arp says about Cumberland County's senior resident Superior Court judge. So there you have it. The stage is set for a new mayor, 5 incumbents, 2 former councilmen, and 2 freshmen ready to place their fingerprints on city government.
Hand Gator will travel, but not far. This is written by Rex B. Griffin. In late September 1956, I was working at Dave Ladley's Esso service station on US 301 South. It was still warm and the tourist traffic was heavy from Maine to Florida, with people coming from and going to Florida. Interstate 95 did not exist, and US 301 was the most heavily traveled highway on the East Coast. Ladley's Esso was on the southbound side of US 301. Clark's Esso station was directly across the highway on the northbound side. We were very busy. I was pumping gas into a black 1925 Lincoln. CB Barefoot was pumping gas into a yellow and black 1956 Chevrolet convertible. How do I remember this? Well, I had never seen a Lincoln that old or that big. It was enormously long with a very large engine. The Chevrolet had the top down, and inside were 2 very pretty girls. The guy driving the Lincoln got out and said, "Fill it up with high-test gas and fill it up with oil." I put 35 gallons of gas in the tank and 10 quarts of oil in the engine. Esso Golden Extra was only 36 cents a gallon. CV and I had just finished with these 2 cars when a new Cadillac going northbound cuts across the highway into Ladley's driveway. Between the office and the gas pumps, it slammed on brakes. With the car in gear and still rolling, 2 elderly ladies jumped out screaming, "It got loose and it bit me, it bit me." CB chased the car down, stopped it while Claude Huggins and I were trying to calm the ladies down and find out what had happened. To say the 2 ladies were hysterical would be putting it mildly. Back in the 1950s in Florida, you could purchase a baby alligator for about 50 cents. Roadside sellers would put it in a shoebox with holes punched in it for air. The 2 elderly ladies had bought one. They had placed the shoebox on the back seat and began their journey back to New York. Everything was going just fine. They were happy. The 2 ladies, who were sisters, had talked about how much they had enjoyed their wonderful trip and about the cute little pet they were bringing home with them. But on the other side of the coin, the cute little pet in the shoebox on the back seat was not happy. His mission was to get out of the box. It wasn't easy. It took him all the way from Florida to North Carolina to get out. The way I figured, he had probably made his glorious escape near the Rockfish Creek Bridge on US 301. Then he went under the front seat, slowly making his way up into the passenger seat, then slowly up the passenger's arm. That put the Cadillac almost to the crossover in front of Ladley's Esso. Then, with revenge on his mind for being kept in the box so long, he made his move. He bit the lady's right arm above her wrist. She screamed in pain, looked down, and there it was, having lunch on her arm. The driver looked over and screamed. She screamed in panic, seeing Ladley's Esso sign, she cut from the right lane across traffic, then almost got hit again crossing the southbound side, pulling up to the service station office and jumped out screaming. When C.B. got the car stopped, he knew nothing about an alligator in the car. After we got them calmed down, C.V. and I recaptured the alligator. He had gone under the front seat. I took the lid off the box, and C.V. reached under the seat and grabbed him. While he was getting the alligator in the box, it was having lunch on C.V.'s fingers. We secured the lid better and put it back on the back seat. C.V. told the now calm ladies the alligator was back in the box and on the back seat. They screamed, "No, we don't want it. Get it out." I took the box out of the car. The two shaken ladies resumed their trip, and Dave called someone to come get the alligator. About 2 weeks later, we got a nice letter from the ladies thanking us for our bravery. Well, after all, C.V. did donate skin and blood in the rescue mission, right? Florida later outlawed selling alligators to the public. People would take them home, get bit, flush them down the toilet, or throw them in the lake. I've heard of men working in the sewers in New York finding alligators 14 or more feet long, or people being attacked in lakes. Who would have thought it from these cute little things?
Chamorro says chemical leaks leaked into air. State officials are investigating an air emissions leak at the Bladen County plant under scrutiny for discharging a potentially harmful compound into the Cape Fear River. Chamorro, which has a facility on NC 87 near the Cumberland County line, reported to state regulators Wednesday that a leak had occurred about 5:40 p.m. Tuesday, according to a statement released Friday by the State Department of Environmental Quality. Company officials estimated that the leak in the vinyl ether manufacturing area lasted about 13 hours before workers stopped it, the statement said. The leak came from a condensation tower on the company's Fayetteville Works property, the statement said. The company was able to isolate the equipment and repair a valve they believed to be the source of the leak. The statement said that based on information provided by Chamorro, 55 pounds of hexafluoropropanol oxide and 70 pounds of HFPO dimer-acid fluoride were released. State officials continue to monitor air quality emissions as part of the state's investigation of Chamorro. Jamie Kritzer, department spokesperson, said HFPO dimer-acid fluoride is a precursor to Gen X. Both the fluorinated compounds, he said. We believe these compounds disperse fairly rapidly with the prevailing winds and that they would have not caused any health effects as a result of inhalation, he said. The state started investigating Chamorro in June when news surfaced that researchers had found Gen X in the Cape Fear River. The company agreed to stop releasing the compound. Elevated levels of Gen X also have been detected in private wells around the plant and in 2 lakes. The company is providing bottled water to residents with wells that have tested for high levels of Gen X. State officials said Thursday that they are taking steps to revoke Chamorro's wastewater discharge permit. The company said the move is unwarranted. State officials also have been investigating airborne emissions of Gen X. The company released at least 500 pounds of the compound and similar chemicals in each of the last 5 years, state records show. The chemical has been linked in animal studies to several forms of cancer, but it's unknown if the effects are the same in humans. Gen X is used to make non-stick coatings on cookware and for other purposes.
North Carolina editorial roundup. The Charlotte Observer on jailing the poor. The poorest among us should not be responsible for funding the criminal justice system, nor should they be punished simply for being poor. That message is being resonated in both Carolinas, but needs to become a principle upon which more court officials and legislators abide by. In Mecklenburg County, judges are working with Harvard Law School's Criminal Justice Debt Initiative to ensure that people who don't belong in jail are no longer sent and stuck there because they are unable to pay fines on charges they aren't supposed to include jail time. As the Observer's Michael Gordon reported this weekend, Mecklenburg judges will start weighing defendants' incomes and expenses, their housing status, and whether they can afford to pay for a lawyer. given that more than half of defendants in North Carolina in non-traffic criminal cases were declared indigent last year, and that taxpayers pay the hefty bill to jail people who don't belong there. The move is a wise one. It goes against recent actions taken by the North Carolina General Assembly, which has made it harder for judges to use their discretion to find non-jail options for poor defendants. Legislators have increased court fees by 400% over the past 2 decades, and too many state agencies have come to rely upon the $700 million they generate for the general fund. That's why it's going to be difficult to reverse course. But other North Carolina counties should follow Mecklenburg's lead, even if it means more judges get placed on what court insiders call the list of shame by refusing to sit idly while the state encourages a debtor's prison. And judges should be proud to be named to the legislative mandated list, ensuring fair treatment of the most vulnerable. They should not feel shame for doing the right thing. We should have never built a justice system that routinely treat the downtrodden unfairly so towns and cities could fund their growing budgets. Municipalities, courts, and other government agencies must find constitutional, sound revenue sources and stop preying on the poor.
Putting people first. The Toronto Sun on what the role of government should be. Last week marked the first anniversary of Donald Trump's election as President of the United States. The ensuing year has, without a doubt, been a wild one. Republicans are suffering through the pangs of identity crisis as their own president tries to reorient what it means to be an American conservative. Trump himself has struggled to enact some of his election pledges in a timely manner. Meanwhile, Democrats remain apocalyptic over their unexpected electoral loss. Instead of soul-searching, they remain mired in denial and defiance. Instead of searching for ways to rebuild, they're working overtime to destroy and discredit a president they despise, naively kidding themselves he'll soon be impeached, and oblivious to the division they're sowing across America. These conversations south of the border have, as they often do, elbow their way into Canadian public discourse, frequently on divisive cultural issues and fueled by the poison state of American politics. We shouldn't let ourselves get bogged down in these conversations. Instead, we should remember our similarities matter more than our differences. What matters most are the issues that bring us together. There was one thing that happened during the last presidential election that inspired not just Americans, but people in Canada and around the world. The idea of putting the people first. If the political class want the numbers to improve, they need to actually put the people first. The Saudi Gazette on the end of Robert Mugabe's rule in Zimbabwe. After 33 years in power, Zimbabwe's colorful and controversial president, Robert Mugabe, has been overthrown in a military coup. Regarded by the West as a monster and an economic incompetent who wrecked his country's once flourishing economy, to many in Africa he was regarded as a hero who in 1980 emerged as the victor in a bitter 15-year guerrilla war against the white-dominated regime. It may prove an irony that even with the forces that overthrew him, he remains a figure of some respect. But at 93, though he appeared to be in full control of his faculties, his long political career was drawing to an inevitable close. This coup has been all about who would take over power when he died. This year, he sacked his vice president, Emerson Mnangagwa, a long-standing political ally in the ruling ZANU-PF party, and the obvious candidate to follow his chief to his country's leadership. The move was seen to have been motivated by his wife, Grace, who had built up a body of support that she hoped would enable her to take over the presidency on her husband's death. Grace Mugabe is 53. She is the president's former secretary, whom he married in 1994 after his first wife died of cancer. The West has chosen to focus on the collapse of the country's once highly profitable agricultural sector following the enforced takeover of 4,000 colonial-era white farms. But the country also has substantial gold, platinum, and gemstones, and Zimbabwe's stunning natural beauty remains a major lure for tourists. And there is another irony to the ousted presidents ruled. It was not all venal and incompetent. Mugabe invested consistently in education. Some 90% of Zimbabweans are literate, the highest rate in Africa, yet literacy breeds a greater social awareness and more vigorous communication among those who are disaffected. An advisor once warned Mugabe that by expanding education, he was digging his own grave. But in the end, it was not angry demonstrators who brought down Mugabe, but his soldiers. What will literate Zimbabweans do next?
Woefully inadequate system. The News and Observer of Raleigh on North Carolina's tracking of harassment. The reports of sexual harassment over many years by a Hollywood mogul and allegations about a front-running politician in Alabama are only the latest such stories, as it seems rarely a week goes by without some new disclosures by the famous and infamous. But the News and Observer's Will Doran reports that workplace sexual harassment and allegations of it in state government in North Carolina are hard to track. There's no current system statewide for knowing how workers are disciplined and how charges are reported. For one thing, such allegations are coded for our reporting purposes as misconduct, which could be harassment or could not be. So if someone wants to track through the Office of Administrative Hearings some harassment cases or its appeal, there's no use of terms like sexual harassment. It's entirely possible that somewhere in the state government bureaucracy, there are people aware of how such allegations are becoming more prominent in the world at large, and sadly, how too common they appear to be, and those people are working on a more efficient and more complete way of reporting and tracking such allegations when they occur in government offices. Certainly, a better system is overdue.
A place of hope for the homeless. Where are the local bidders? For the revival of the former Jubilee House, which was founded to provide living quarters for homeless veteran women and their children, the house on Langdon Street, which was built in 2011 as a part of ABC's Extreme Makeover Home Edition, drew national fame and a visit from then First Lady Michelle Obama, who appeared in the final episode, but the project had management problems from the outset and a struggle over ownership. But now the house appears to be in good hands with the nonprofit Family Endeavors. It's been renovated and by the early next year will reopen for up to 24 homeless veteran mothers and their children. It's been renamed Reveal Retreat. Travis Pearson, president and CEO of Family Endeavors, says when residents arrive at the house, I want them to feel acceptance. I want them to pick up a sense of hope. Along with housing, Family Endeavors will provide case management, parenting education, mental health counseling, employment, and education coaching and self-sufficiency skills. We hope Reveal Retreat will become another part of a city effort that has brought veteran homelessness here down to the functional zero level. This is the town that should get that right. For the surprising shortage of local bidders for work on building the city's $33 million downtown baseball stadium, the ballpark, which will become the home of the world champion Houston Astros single, a minor league that played this year in Bowie's Creek, is expected to open in time for the 2019 baseball season. Deputy City Manager Christoph Barra told the City Council's Baseball Committee this week that despite intensive efforts to get local contractors involved in the project, the city has received only one local bid for site work and one for fencing, despite having many local companies that do this kind of work. And a local steel company didn't bid on the steel work for the stadium. Council members were perplexed that they had made the effort to ensure that local contractors share in the contract, but none appeared interested. Some wondered if the city didn't advertise the work in the right places, and baseball committee member Jim Arp, who Mayor-elect Mitch Coben wants to make the commitment's next chair, wondered the same thing that we did when we heard about the problem. Is it because local contractors fear the city will be hard to work with? Is that a perception that is keeping us from getting bids, he wondered? Good question. There's no doubt that local contractors have had big problems working with the city's permitting and inspection staffs in the past. We hope those problems are behind us. But this is a good opportunity to take another hard look. Keeping that construction money circulating within the city is a great goal, and we hope it will happen. For the City Council's approval of a Haymont property rezoning that will allow Haymont grill owner Pete Skinteris to rebuild his fire rage business. Under the current zoning for the iconic restaurant, the city's Unified Development Ordinance would have required an increase in the residents' parking lot size and the addition of considerable planning around the restaurant. But the building is located on the Thin Triangle in Haymont, where Fort Bragg and Morganton roads converge, and those expansions would have been impossible. In fact, the Little Haymont Commercial District is the object of considerable study and discussion for better, more pedestrian-friendly development. The city is looking at creating a special district similar to the one downtown. Preventing the grill from reopening would have been a blow to that effort. We're looking forward to seeing Skin Terrace back in his kitchen turn out the meals that have fed thousands of people for generations. For the start of a $17.6 million renovation of the terminal at Fayetteville Regional Airport, which will begin soon. In fact, the symbolic bit of the work began on Tuesday with the wall-breaking ceremony that included local government officials, dignitaries, and members of the Fayetteville Regional Airport Commission. The project will begin with the replacement of Concourse A in the terminal building. It will include a new elevator, a connector to a second-level main terminal, 2 new walkways for boarding airplanes, a new restaurant, and kitchen space. The original terminal and Concourse A were built in 1969. Ticketing and baggage wings in Concourse B were added in the 1980s. The Concourse A work is part of a larger expansion and renovation of the terminal that will take place over the next 3 to 5 years with a total budget of $30 million. The money is not coming from the city budget, but rather from the Federal Aviation Administration, the North Carolina Division of Aviation, and from the airport's own funds. It's great to see the little airport grow. For the world's largest spaghetti dinner and Greek pastry sale, an annual event held at Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Fayetteville. This year's Pasta Fest was held on Wednesday, the 59th edition. It's one of the city's great traditions. Last year's event sold about 9,000 plates of spaghetti, topped with the secret recipe sauce that draws raves. This year they were shooting for 10,000. We hope everyone saved room for dessert.
Panhandling, poverty, homelessness plague us. This article is by Troy Williams. Fayetteville city officials are concerned with homelessness in all ranks, and their concerns are legitimate. Councilman Kirk DeVere and Larry Wright are also on target, identifying poverty as a primary causal factor. DeVere is heading up a summit today at the Department of Social Services on Ramsey Street for the program he's named Pathways to Prosperity. Poverty is a real threat to a growing number of Americans. According to Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health, over 800,000 deaths annually can be attributed to poverty and low levels of education. In another report, the Southern Education Foundation reveals that the majority of U.S. public school students are in poverty. The statistics are grim. Social causes can be linked to death as readily as can disease and behavior. Some city officials are focusing on panhandling, and rightfully so, because begging for money can be more than just an annoyance. It can be very dangerous. I have been a downtown business owner for the past 23 years, and my experiences, although not scientific, have given me a unique perspective on Fayetteville's downtown problem of homelessness and panhandling. Sure, most of it is tied to poverty, no question about it, but the manner in which some panhandlers ply their trade is what concerns me. There are 2 types, passive and aggressive. Submissive beggars solicit without threat, often without exchanging words, just a handmade sign or a hand held out. Aggressive panhandlers are different. Their actions are more menacing and aggressive. I've encountered many of them, men who, when I have refused to accommodate their requests, sometimes become belligerent and angry. If I had given in to their demands, I suspect the encounter would have been borderline common law robbery. That kind of behavior represents a tiny percentage of beggars, but they are part of the problem. Downtown, a lot of the panhandlers are dealing with pedestrians, but occasionally some of them find their way into the street, accosting motorists, especially around the market square. Charleston, South Carolina passed an ordinance a few years ago that prohibits the passing of items to and from the occupant of a vehicle to a person outside of the vehicle on street or roadway, which includes money given to people on the road, whether panhandling or collecting donations for a charity. It appears to be a common sense ordinance intended to promote the free flow of vehicle traffic as well as promote the safety of pedestrians near roadways. The vehicle driver can be cited as well as the pedestrian. The punishment is a fine of $1,092 or 30 days in jail. Exceptions will be on private property in a permitted parking area, or if the vehicle is disabled or there is an accident where someone is seeking emergency assistance. Such an ordinance might be a useful tool to curb open-air drug sales in high-crime areas as well. I hope I'm not coming across as someone insensitive to the poor. I generally care. However, I want to be more of a part of the solution than the problem. After a couple of years of running into numerous people begging, usually while I'm walking, I started to ask questions. I wanted to know their story. I was surprised to learn that many of the people I encountered were addicted to illegal drugs or alcohol, and they had relatives in the area who wouldn't allow them to live with them and continue their behavior. In other words, if they would clean up their act, they would have a place to live, somewhere from other cities too. On one occasion, early one morning in the bitter cold, a guy was begging at the post office on Green Street. He told me he was from Garner. Since I was on my way to Raleigh, I offered to drop him off en route. He refused. On another occasion, another young man ran up to me when I was leaving my office on Hay Street one night. He said he was trying to get home. I know it wasn't a good idea, but I trusted my instincts and put him in my car, drove him to the bus station, bought him a one-way ticket, and sent him on his way. I never saw him again. I hope things worked out for him. The most interesting encounter I've had with a panhandler is when I was approached in a grocery store in North Fayetteville. Evidently, he watched me drive up, and when I parked my car, he followed me in. I allowed him to get some food, and as I paid for mine, I paid for his too. Homelessness and poverty in our community are diverse. White, black, male, female, young, and old. Much of the evidence would suggest it is a national crisis. Recently, a local group called the WIDU Pastors Coalition raised over $10,000 for the homeless. I believe such acts are morally the right thing to do. However, it is only part of the solution.
Russia investigation includes spectacular level of lies. I spent part of my convalescence from a reading illness reading some of the comprehensive timelines of the Russia investigation, which indicates, I suppose, a sickness of another sort. One compiled by Politico runs to nearly 12,000 words, an almost book-length account of stupidity, cynicism, hubris, and corruption at the highest levels of American politics. The cumulative effect on the reader is a kind of nausea no pill can cure. Most recently, we learned about Donald Trump Jr.'s direct communications with WikiLeaks, which CIA Director Mike Pompeo has called a hostile intelligence service helped by Russia during its efforts to produce incriminating material on Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election. But this is one sentence in an epic of corruption. There is the narrative of a campaign in which high-level operatives believed that Russian espionage could help secure the American presidency and acted on that belief. There is the narrative of deception to conceal the nature and extent of Russian ties. And there is the narrative of a president attempting to prevent or shut down the investigation of those ties and soliciting others for help in that task. In all of this, there is a spectacular accumulation of lies. Lies on disclosure forms, lies at confirmation hearings, lies on Twitter, lies in the White House briefing room, lies to the FBI, self-protective lies by the Attorney General, blocking and tackling lies by Vice President Pence. This is, with a few exceptions, a group of people for whom truth, political honor, ethics, and integrity mean nothing. What are the implications? Trump and others in his administration are about to be hit by a legal tidal wave. We look at the Russia scandal and see lies. A skilled prosecutor sees leverage. People caught in criminal violations make more cooperative witnesses. Robert Mueller and his A-team of investigators have plenty of stupidity and venality to work with. They are investigating an administration riven by internal hatreds, also the prosecutor's friend. And Trump has already alienated many potential allies in a public contest between himself and Mueller. A number of elected Republicans, particularly in the Senate, would watch this showdown with popcorn. But the implications of all this are not only legal and political. We are witnessing what happens when right-wing politics becomes untethered from morality and religion. What does public life look like without the constraining internal force of character, without the firm ethical commitments, often though not exclusively rooted in faith? It looks like a presidential campaign unable to determine right from wrong and loyalty from disloyalty. It looks like an administration engaged in a daily assault on truth and convinced that might makes right. It looks like the residual scum, the residual scum left from retreating political principle, the worship of money, power, and self-promoted fame. The Trumpian Trinity. But also, power without character looks like the environment for women at Fox News during the reigns of Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly. What former network host Andrea Tantaris called a sex-fueled Playboy mansion like cult steeped in intimidation, indecency, and misogyny. It looks like Brett Barr's racial transgressiveness providing permission and legitimacy to the alt-right. It looks like the cruelty and dehumanization practiced by Denise D'Souza, dismissing the tears and trauma of one Roy Moore accused at a performance. And it looks like the Christian defense of Moore, which has ceased to be recognized to be Christian. This may be the greatest shame of a shameful time. What institution of all institutions should be providing the leaven of principle to political life? What institution is specifically called on to oppose the oppression of children, women, and minorities, to engage the world with civility and kindness, to prepare its members for honorable service to the common good? It is the institution that is currently, in some visible expressions, overlooking for political reasons credible accusations of child molestation.
Okay, just 1 second. We're up there. Okay, ready? Gotta click on now. Joe, you've been here too long. You know that. Okay, good. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Obituaries and news. Cumberland County. Thomas Matthew Harley, 73, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Michael D'Angelo Hobbs, 52, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Norman R. Helms, Sr., 80, of Eastover, Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory. Tammy Violette, 49, of Hope Mills, Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation Services, Hope Mills. Cape Fear Region, Lord Davis, 66, of Newton Grove, Dafford Funeral Home, Dunn. Billy West, 66, of Fayetteville, Butler and Son Funeral Home, Roseboro. Jannie Bell Finnell, 74, of Clinton, Worley Funeral Home. Karen Lloyd, 60, of Laurinburg, Purcell Funeral Home, Laurinburg. Funerals today. Reed Jamia, 32, of Parkton, 1 p.m., Grace Tabernacle Church, 3640 Applegate Road, Hope Mills. Burial, Cumberland Memorial Gardens, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary. Ruth Cotton, 79, of Woodbridge, Virginia, 12 p.m., Greater Highway Church of Christ, Roland. Burial, Greater Highway Church of Christ Cemetery, Roland Hills Funeral Home. Wilma Williams, 88, of Fayetteville, 12:30 p.m., Sullivan's Highland Funeral Home, Burial, Lafayette Memorial Park, Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory. Mamie Graham, 86, of Red Springs, 3 p.m., Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witness, Red Springs, Burial, McLeod Family Cemetery, Maxton, Purcell Funeral Home, Laurinburg. Mary Davis, 62, of McCall, South Carolina, 1 p.m. Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, Laurinburg, Burial, Hillside Memorial Park, Laurinburg, Purcell Funeral Home, Laurinburg. Reverend Milton Locke, Sr., 74, of Fayetteville, 11 a.m., Wiseman Mortuary Chapel, Burial, Rockfish Memorial Park, Wiseman Mortuary. Donald Underwood, 65, of Clinton, 1 p.m., Little Piney Grove Missionary Baptist Church, Burial, Church Cemetery, Carter Funeral Home, Garland. Edna Joyce Carter, 71, of Fayetteville, 1 p.m., Graveside Service, Burial, Macedonia Baptist Church Cemetery, Butler Funeral Home, Stedman. Cherise Redmond, 48, of Fayetteville, 12 p.m., Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Helen Inman, 87, of Elizabethtown, 2 p.m., Trinity United Methodist Church, Bladen Gaskin Funeral Home, Elizabethtown. Barbara Olcutt, of Fayetteville, 2 p.m., Westminster Presbyterian Church, Jernigan Warren Funeral Home. Justin Shackelford, 35, of Hope Mills, 4 p.m., Lafayette Funeral Home, Lafayette Funeral Home. Gerald Warren, 57, of Roseboro, 11 a.m., First Baptist Church, Roseboro, Burial, Warren Cemetery, Carter Funeral Home. Dallas Lyons Jr., 65, of Spring Lake, 2 p.m., Outreach for Jesus, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Ann Bennett, of Fayetteville, 3 p.m., Sapona Church of God, Fayetteville, Cape Fear Crematory. Cumberland County deaths. Floral Kate Bird, 75, of Fayetteville, died Sunday, November 12, 2017. Funeral Saturday, 1 p.m., Well of Living Waters, Visitation, Colvin Funeral Home. Friday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., Burial, Rockfish Memorial Park, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Fayetteville, Tykeem Morrison, 20, of Fayetteville, died Monday, November 13, 2017. Funeral Saturday, 3 p.m., Wiseman Mortuary Chapel, Viewing Funeral Home, Saturday, 9 a.m., 3 p.m., Wiseman Mortuary. Rosemarie K. Shute passed away on September 7 at Carriage Home Memorial Care Facility in Greensboro, North Carolina. She was born in Germany on September 14, 1935, the eldest of Riesel and Walter King. A memorial service is planned for 2 p.m. on Monday, November 20, at St. John's Episcopal Church. In lieu of flowers, the family asks that anyone who wishes to remember her please consider a donation to St. Jude's Children's Hospital or the Alzheimer's Association. Service are entrusted to Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service. Fayetteville, Felton Jeffrey Capel, Jr., 64, of Fayetteville, died Monday, November 13. Funeral Sunday, 2 p.m., Felton J. Chapel Arena on the campus of Fayetteville State University. There will be no viewing. Burial, Rockfish Memorial Park, Wiseman Mortuary. Davidson, Charles William Connor passed away on Monday, November 13. To celebrate Charles' remarkable life and his legacy of birth, memorial service will be held on Saturday, November 25th at 1 p.m. at Bethany Associate Reformed Presbyterian Church, where Charlie and Lucy were married. A family visitation and reception will be held at 4 p.m. on the same day at the Pines at Davidson, 400 Avenger Lane, Davidson. Gibson, Judy Lynn Moore, died Tuesday, November 14. Funeral Sunday, 2 p.m. Goodwin Chapel, AME Zion Church, McCall, South Carolina. Visitation, Purcell Funeral Home, Chapel Laurinburg, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Burial, Godwin's Chapel Church Cemetery, McCall, South Carolina. Purcell Funeral Home, Laurinburg. St. Paul's, Fletcher C. Locklear, 74 of St. Paul's, died Wednesday, November 15. Funeral, Sunday, 2 p.m., Rebels Funeral Home, Chapel, Lumberton Visitation. Rebels Funeral Home, Lumberton. Saturday, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Burial, Locklear Family Cemetery, Rebels Funeral Home, Lumberton. Laurinburg, Michael Anthony Quick, 58 of Laurinburg, died Wednesday, November 15. Funeral, Monday, 11 a.m., Richard Bowles Funeral Services. Visitation prior to the service at the funeral home, Monday, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Burial, private at a later date. Richard Bowles Funeral Service. Lumberton, Yamir D. Alford, 21 of Lumberton, died Tuesday, November 14, 2017. Funeral, Saturday, 10 a.m., Revival Deliverance Center, Viewing Colvin Funeral Home, Friday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Burial, Meadowbrook Cemetery, Colvin Funeral Home. Whiteville, David Milton Boswell, 84 of Whiteville, died Thursday, November 16th. Funeral, Saturday, 2 p.m. Worthington Funeral Home. Visitation, Worthington Funeral Home. Saturday, noon to 2 p.m. Burial, Stanley Cemetery, Clarendon. Worthington Funeral Home. Garland, Mildred Ship Rich, 90 of Garland, died Friday, November 17. Funeral, Tuesday, 2 p.m., Garland Pentecostal Free Will Baptist Church. Visitation, Carter Funeral Home, Sunday, 3 p.m., 5 p.m. Burial, Garland Cemetery, Carter Funeral Home. Gibson, Larry Knight, 64 of Gibson, died Thursday, November 16th. Funeral, Monday, 3 p.m., Richard Bowles Funeral Service, Chapel. Visitation will be at the funeral home, Sunday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Burial, Hillside Memorial Park, Richard Bowles Funeral Services. Clinton, Sharon Bird Barber, 60, died Thursday, November 16. Funeral, Saturday, 3 p.m., Mount Vernon Baptist Church. Visitation, Mount Vernon Baptist Church, Saturday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Burial, Barber Family Cemetery, Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home.
This is from Billy Graham. It's a question for Billy Graham. He has a column. My cousin is very religious and keeps telling us how we need to change, but to be honest, most of our family avoids her because we don't like her self-righteous, holier-than-thou attitude. She's always lecturing us because we don't do things exactly the way she thinks we should, and we're tired of it. Are we wrong? Here is the answer from Billy Graham. From what you say, it sounds like your cousin has a problem that she doesn't even realize she has, a problem with pride. I couldn't help but think of Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Mount. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Your attitude isn't surprising. I doubt if I've ever met anyone who likes a hypocrite. A hypocrite claims to be close to God, but in reality is far from Him, and shows it by the way they live. The tragedy is that hypocrites often don't realize just how far they've drifted from what they ought to be, and they become proud and self-righteous. Some of Jesus' strongest words were directed at those who claim to love God but denied it by their lives. Instead of avoiding your aunt, however, I hope you would try to help her.
Dear Abby, I am a 17-year-old girl and somewhat spoiled. My mother delivers breakfast in bed to me daily. My dad eats a burger for dinner. But Mom cooks a ribeye steak with a loaded baked potato for me.
Me too.
I don't know how to cook, but Dad says I must cook a complete Thanksgiving dinner with no assistance. My smartphone will help, but do you have any ideas? This is from Word About Turkeys. Dear Word, mastering the basics of cooking is an important skill you will need when you no longer live with your parents. Your father has the right idea, but he's going about it the wrong way. Expecting you to go from not knowing how to boil water to producing an entire Thanksgiving dinner without help is unrealistic, to say the least. Dear Abby, next year my boyfriend and I will have been together for 15 years. We are not married and feel no urge to do so. We plan on spending the rest of our lives together, but we just don't plan on wedding. My question is, I'd like to have an anniversary party. Is it unheard of for an unmarried couple to have one? We love each other and would like to celebrate our relationship with friends and family. What do you think? And would it be wrong to have a dance to our song? Any ideas would be appreciated as well. This is from Unmarried in Michigan. Dear unmarried, 15 years together is something to celebrate, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. You can do anything you want at the party, including dance to your song. An anniversary of the day you became a couple is fine. Advertise it that way, and there should be no criticism.
Reverend Jesse Jackson discloses Parkinson's disease diagnosis. The Reverend Jesse Jackson disclosed publicly Friday that he's been seeking outpatient care for 2 years for Parkinson's disease and plans to dedicate himself to physical therapy to slow the progress of the disease. In a letter to supporters, the 76-year-old civil rights icon said family and friends noticed the change in him about 3 years ago, and he could no longer ignore symptoms of the chronic neurological disorder that causes movement difficulties. Recognition of the effects of this disease on me has been painful, and I have been slow to grasp the gravity of it, he wrote. For me, a Parkinson's diagnosis is not a stop sign, but rather a signal that I must make lifestyle changes and dedicate myself to physical therapy. Jackson, who declined to be interviewed, also released a letter from Northwestern Medicine confirming his diagnosis and care. He vowed to use his voice to help find a cure for the disease. About 60,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with Parkinson's annually, according to the Parkinson's Foundation. It can start with tremors, and symptoms generally worsen over time. The exact case is unknown. Treatments include medication, surgery, and physical therapy. The disease itself is not fatal, but people can die from complications, Jackson said. Parkinson's bested his father. Noah Lewis Robinson Sr. died in 1997 at age 88 after suffering a heart attack. It was unclear how his treatment would affect his leadership of the Rainbow Push Coalition, the Chicago-based civil rights group he founded more than 2 decades ago. Jackson has remained active in his advocacy and travels, including traveling to Puerto Rico last month for a hurricane relief mission and hosting of a symposium in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. A protege of the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jackson was instrumental in guiding the modern civil rights movement on a wide variety of issues, including voting rights and education. Twice a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination in the 1980s, he has remained a strong voice in numerous anti-discrimination efforts, including advocating for affordable housing. He's often seen at protests nationwide and has continued regular forums at Rainbow Push's headquarters. He said Friday in the letter that he's actually also working on a memoir. I will continue to try to instill hope in the hopeless, expand our democracy to the disenfranchised, and free innocent prisoners around the world, he wrote. I steadfastly affirmed that I would rather wear out than rust out. The Reverend Al Sharpton said he spent the last few days with Jackson in New York City. Jackson has changed the nation and served in ways in which he never got credit, Sharpton said in a statement. We pray for him just as he fought for us.
Horoscope. Scorpio, October 23rd, November 21. You will have to weigh some complex evidence today in order to come up with an answer to a mystery plaguing more than just yourself. Sagittarius, November 22nd, December 21. Whether or not you are feeling up to the challenge, what you have to do today will not go away. So, now is the time to push forward. Capricorn, December 21, January 19. You are likely to hit upon a new idea today that you are perfectly willing to share with others, and they will accept it wholeheartedly. Aquarius, January 20, February 18. You will also surely find yourself ahead of the rest today, simply because you understand the rules more than anyone else. Pisces, February 19th, March 20. You are more than willing to do what is necessary today, but you don't want to be spinning your wheels doing what will yield no results. Aries, March 21, April 19. You're likely to receive a piece of advice that stops you in your tracks today, perhaps literally. Interpreting it correctly is the key. Taurus, April 20, May 20th. You may not be able to reconcile what someone else says with what you know to be true. You will almost surely want to investigate further. Gemini, May 21, June 20. You and a rival may have come to an impasse today. Why not suggest that you work together to overcome this obstacle? Cancer, June 21, July 22nd. You can avoid many of the traps that others are falling into at this time, but there is one that you may find impossible to avoid right now. Leo, July 23rd, August 22nd. You can suggest another way of doing things when you see those around you failing again and again when trying the same thing. Virgo, August 23rd, September 22nd. You're likely to reveal something about yourself today without even knowing it, but the result can be an advantage by day's end. Libra, September 23rd, October 22nd. What you call strategies, someone else is likely to call an accident. But in truth, you've worked hard to devise a plan that works for you.
Suspect charged in store robberies. Police have charged a woman with robbing 2 Family Dollar stores and a Dollar General in Lumberton. Tyra Watson, 18 years old, was arrested Thursday and charged with 3 counts of robbery with a dangerous weapon. She also is charged with 1 count of larceny that is unrelated to the robberies, Lumberton police said. She is accused of robbing the Family Dollar at 1719 Roberts Avenue on November 2nd at 6:52 p.m. and the Dollar General at 925 Caton Road on November 4th at 11:46 a.m. And 20 minutes later, the Family Dollar at 1305 East 5th Street, police said in a news release. Watson is being held at the Robeson County Detention Center with bail set at $300,000.
Woman found dead outside her home. The Fayetteville Police Department is investigating the death of a woman whose body was found early Friday outside her residence on Republican Road. The woman, whose name is not being released until family is notified, was found by a neighbor, the police department said in a news release. Police responded to this 4,700 block of Republican Road about 7:30 a.m. The woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Her body will be sent to the office of the chief medical examiner to determine the cause of death. No other information was available. Anyone with information regarding the death investigation is asked to call Detective M. Wooten at 391-8630 or Crime Stoppers at 483-8477.
Iraqi forces retake last IS-held town. Baghdad. Iraqi forces backed by the U.S.-led coalition retook on Friday the last town in the country that was held by the Islamic State group. More than 3 years after the militants stormed nearly a third of Iraq's territory, the defense ministry said. At dawn, military units and local tribal fighters pushed into the western neighborhoods of Rawah in western Anbar province, and just after 5 hours of fighting, they retook the town, according to General Yahya Rasul, the ministry spokesman. Iraq's Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi congratulated his forces on retaking Rawah. In a statement released on Friday afternoon, al-Abadi said Iraqi forces liberated Rawah in record time and will continue operations to retake control of Iraq's western desert and the border area with Syria. Rawah, 170 miles northwest of Baghdad, lies along the Euphrates River Valley near the border town of Qam that Iraqi forces retook from IS earlier this month, and IS stands for Islamic State Group. U.S.-led coalition forces supported the operations to retake Rawah and Qam with intelligence, airstrikes, and advisors, coalition spokesman Ryan Dillon said. IS blitzed across Iraq's north and west in the summer of 2014, capturing Iraq's second-largest city of Mosul and advancing to the edges of the Iraqi capital Baghdad. Later that year, the United States began a campaign of airstrikes against the militants that fueled Iraqi territorial gains, allowing the military to retake Mosul in July this year. All that now remains of IS held Iraq are patches of rural territory in the country's vast western desert along the border with Syria. IS has steadily been losing ground across the border in Syria as well, where its so-called caliphate has basically crumbled with the loss of the city of Raqqa, the former Islamic State group's capital, which fell to the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces in October.
16th MP Brigade Commander reinstated. A Fort Bragg colonel is back at work following an investigation that lasted nearly a month. Colonel Larry Dewey was reinstated Friday at the 16th Military Police Brigade Commander after an internal investigation found no wrongdoing on his part, said Colonel Joseph Soraka, spokesman for the 18th Airborne Corps. Dewey, who took command of the MP Brigade in July, had been suspended from duty since October 19. The brigade's deputy commander led the unit in his absence. Officials have not said what Dewey was accused of, but Friday, Soraka said investigators had cleared the colonel. The 18th Airborne Corps is the brigade's highest headquarters. Both organizations are based at Fort Bragg and have units across the United States. The 16th MP Brigade has 5 battalions, which provide garrison law enforcement and force protection to Fort Bragg, Fort Drum, New York, Fort Polk, Louisiana, and Fort Stewart, Georgia. As part of the 18th Airborne Corps, the brigade is postured to respond to contingency missions worldwide.
VA considering merger with TRICARE. As part of its effort to expand private health care, the Department of Veterans Affairs is exploring the possibility of merging its health system with the Pentagon's, a cost-saving measure that veterans groups could threaten the viability of VA hospitals and clinics. VA spokesman Kurt Kasher called the plan a potential game changer that would provide better care for veterans at a lower cost to taxpayers, but he provided no specific details. Griffin Anderson, a spokesman for the Democrats on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, said the proposal developed without input from Congress would amount to a merger of the VA's choice and the military's TRICARE private health care programs. Committee Democrats independently confirmed the discussions involved TRICARE. News of the plan stirred alarm from veterans groups who said they had not been consulted, and sharp criticism from congressional Democrats who pledged to oppose any VA privatization effort that forces veterans to pay out of pocket for the benefits they have earned with their heroism. VA is seeking a long-term legislative fix for choice by year's end. Today we will see evidence that the Trump administration is quietly planning to dismantle veterans' health care, said House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California. House Democrats will fight tooth and nail against any efforts to diminish or destroy VA's irreplaceable role as the chief coordinator, advocate, and manager of care for veterans. Healthcare experts also expressed surprise that VA would consider a TRICARE merger to provide private care for millions of active duty troops, military retirees, and veterans. The two departments generally serve very different patient groups: older, sicker veterans treated by VA and generally healthier service members, retirees and their families covered by TRICARE.
Advocacy groups: killings of transgender people increase. At least 25 transgender people in the United States have been homicide victims so far this year, the highest annual total on record. According to advocacy groups that have been monitoring the grim phenomenon and seeking ways to reduce the toll, the Human Rights Campaign, in a report released Friday, calculated that 102 transgender people have been killed in the United States over the past 5 years, including 25 this year. Its report, jointly sponsored by the Trans People of Color Coalition, was issued ahead of Monday's annual Transgender Day of Remembrance observations, commemorating the hundreds of transgender people killed worldwide each year. Another monitoring group, the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, have tallied 26 homicides of transgender and gender non-conforming people in the United States so far this year. Both groups say their accounts may be incomplete because transgender victims are sometimes misidentified in police and news reports. In some cases, it has taken weeks or months for friends and family to publicly clarify the gender identity of a victim who had transitioned from the gender given in initial police accounts of the death. The Human Rights Campaign provided a statistical breakdown of the 102 killings since January 2013. It said that 88 of the victims were transgender women and that nearly all of them were black or Hispanic. Nearly 3/4 were under age 35, including 4 minors, and 55 of the victims were killed in the South, including 16 of this year's victims. Their killings were committed by lovers, acquaintances, family members, neighbors, and strangers. The report said, while every story highlighted in this report is unique and tragic, they all also reflect a legacy of intolerance, hate, and discrimination that transgender people must navigate and surmount every day. The report noted that most states do not have laws prohibiting discrimination against transgender people. Indeed, in many states, anti-transgender bias is ingrained and systematically enforced in nearly all aspects of life, including in laws and government agencies, schools, housing, healthcare, and employment, the report said.
Pipeline leak won't affect final hurdle. Lincoln, Nebraska. Discovery of a 210,000-gallon oil leak from the Keystone Pipeline would seem to be poor timing 4 days before regulators in Nebraska decide whether to allow a major expansion of the system, but officials say state law does not allow pipeline safety to be a factor in their decision. The Nebraska Public Service Commission was scheduled to rule Monday if a Keystone XL expansion pipeline proposed by TransCanada Corporation can cross the state. The Commission's decision is the last major regulatory hurdle for a project that has faced numerous local, state, and federal reviews and lawsuits since it was announced in 2008. Keystone operator TransCanada Corporation shut down the existing pipeline early Thursday morning, and workers were testing to determine the cause of the spill on agricultural land in Marshall County, South Dakota, near the North Dakota border, about 250 miles west of Minneapolis. State and company officials said the spill was not a threat to waterways or drinking water, but critics were quick to use the leak as an example of what they see as the risk to the environment. The Nebraska vote Monday will be on a proposed route for Keystone XL, a massive expansion that also would be operated by TransCanada. The new pipeline would carry an estimated 830,000 barrels of oil a day from the oil sands area of Canada through Montana, South Dakota, and Nebraska, where it would connect with the existing Keystone Pipeline. The decision will hinge on testimony and documents generated from public hearings over the summer and from more than 500,000 public comments, Nebraska Public Service Commission spokesman Debbie Collins said. A state law passed in 2011 prevents the Commission from factoring pipeline safety or the possibility of leaks into its decisions. The Commission's decision will be based on the evidence in the record, Collins said. The Keystone XL proposal has faced intense opposition in Nebraska from a coalition of environmental groups, Native American tribes, and some landowners who don't want the pipeline running through their property. Nebraska lawmakers gave the Commission the power to regulate major oil pipelines in 2011 in response to a public outcry over the pipeline and its potential impact on the sandhills, an ecologically fragile region of grass-covered sand dunes. But when they passed the law, legislators argued that pipeline safety is a federal responsibility and should not factor in the state decision. Opponents of Keystone XL are incensed that the leak won't be considered. There was a reason TransCanada and the big oil lobby did not want this information on the record, said Jane Cleve, director of the Bold Alliance, a coalition of groups that have opposed the Keystone XL for nearly a decade. President Donald Trump issued a federal permit for the expansion project in March, even though it had been rejected by the Obama administration.
More allegations dividing GOP women. Montgomery, Alabama. Standing on the white marble steps of Alabama's Capitol, Kayla Moore surrounded herself with 24 other women Friday to defend husband Roy Moore against accusations of sexual misconduct that are dividing Republicans and women in particular. He will not step down. He will not stop fighting for the people of Alabama, Kayla Moore said at a Women for More rally. Acting as her husband's lead defender, she lashed out at the news media and thanked people who were sticking behind her husband. To the people of Alabama, thank you for being smarter than they think you are, Moore said. Not everyone is sticking with Roy Moore, however, and certainly not all women. I was going to vote for him. I was going to be one of his voters. I just don't know that I can vote for him anymore, said Laura Payne, a Trump delegate to the 2016 Republican Party convention. Since last week, Moore has been engulfed by accusations of sexual misconduct toward women in their teens when he was a deputy district attorney in his 30s. 7 of his accusers have allowed their identities to be made public. One said Moore tried to initiate a sexual encounter with her when she was 14. Another said Moore assaulted her when she was a 16-year-old waitress after he offered to drive her home. 5 others said Moore pursued romantic relationships with them when they were between the ages of 16 and 18. I have not found any reason not to believe them. They risk a whole lot to come forward, Payne said of the accusers. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said she also has no reason to disbelieve the women and is bothered by their allegations, but Ivey said she will vote for Moore anyway for the sake of GOP power in Congress. We need to have a Republican in the United States Senate to vote on things like Supreme Court justices, other appointments that the Senate has to confirm and make major decisions, Ivey said. Moore has ignored mounting calls from Washington Republicans concerned that if he stays in the race against Democrat Doug Jones, he may not only lose the seat they were sure to win, but also may do significant damage to the party's brand among women nationwide as they prepare for a difficult midterm election season. The Alabama GOP, meanwhile, reaffirmed its support for Moore on Thursday. The accusation sent a shockwave through the Senate race in Alabama, where Republicans typically have a lock on statewide election. Democrats already hope to stand a chance against the jurist who was twice removed from Chief Justice duties because of defying court orders regarding the 10 Commandments and gay marriage. A Fox News poll released Thursday, a week after the first accusations, showed Jones leading Moore by 8 points. Support from women was helping to give Jones the edge, with 68% for Jones compared to 32% for Moore. One of them is longtime Republican Tracy James, who worked for former Senator and current U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Her cousin was a Republican governor. She won't vote for Moore, a decision she made before the election. My hope is that Moore will not only be a wake-up call for evangelists, also for Republicans who should stand back and say, wow, look at the kind of person we almost elected to our ranks.
Chimora's revoking permit unwarranted. The company that owns the Bladen County plant said Friday that the state's effort to revoke the facility's wastewater discharge permit is unwarranted. The State Department of Environmental Quality said Thursday that it was taking steps to stop Chimora's from dumping wastewater into the Cape Fear River because the company failed to report a chemical spill. Chimora's officials released a statement Friday morning responding to a State Department's intention to suspend and revoke the permit. The company said it has worked in good faith to cooperate fully with all of the department's requests, including capturing wastewater that state officials asked the company to collect. The statement said that even though Chimora's officials do not believe that there is a legal basis to suspend or revoke the permit, the company will accept an invitation from the department's Division of Waste Management to meet. Company officials look forward to discussing a path forward, the statement said. We remain committed to operating this facility, which employs hundreds of North Carolina residents, in accordance with all applicable laws and in a manner that respects the environment and public health and safety, the statement said. State officials notified Chemours on Thursday that on November 30th, the state will suspend its permit to discharge processed wastewater from its manufacturing area, including the areas where Gen X and other fluorinated compounds are produced. The company is still required to divert wastewater containing Gen X and transport it out of state for disposal, a statement released by the department said. The statement said the department also is referring to its investigation of an October 6th spill to the State Bureau of Investigation to find out if there is evidence of criminal wrongdoing. State officials started investigating Chemours in June when news broke that researchers had discovered Gen X in the river. Animal studies have connected the compound to several forms of cancer, but it isn't known whether those effects are the same in humans. Gen X is used to make non-stick coatings on cookware and for other purposes. State officials cited Chemours earlier this week with violating the conditions of its wastewater discharge permit. The permit requires the company to notify the department within 24 hours of any discharge of significant amounts of waste that are abnormal and of any non-compliance that potentially threatens public health or the environment. The spill caused the level of Gen X in the river to spike. State officials said the preliminary tests show concentrations of the compound peaking at 3,700 parts per trillion on October 9th, which was up from less than 70 parts per trillion before the spill. The state's health goal for Gen X is 140 parts per trillion. The revocation of the permit will take effect after a required 60-day notice to Chemours and public participation in the permit process, according to the statement. The revocation does not apply to wastewater from Curare and DuPont facilities which are located on the Chemours property. Chemours treats and discharges that wastewater under the discharge permit.
France honors World War II vets. More than 70 years ago, young men and women risked their lives for the sake of America's allies in Europe. On Friday, one of the nations whose independence was saved said thank you while honoring North Carolina veterans. The top French officials in the southeastern United States, Consul General Louis de Corral, presented 4 World War II veterans hailing from Fayetteville, New Bern, Fayetteville, and Raleigh with Legion of Honor during a ceremony at the old state capitol. The honor is France's highest military honor, created in 1802 by Napoleon Bonaparte. De Corral said the men were true heroes who would never be forgotten. It is never too late to pay homage to these veterans. It is never too late to recall the legacy of their courage and their fight for freedom in a time of darkness and despicable ideological. The honored veterans were Salvatore Maiello, Morton Jacobs, Robert C. Center, and John P. Irby III. De Corral pinned medals to the labels of each, inducted them as Knights in the Legion of Honor. He said the nation of France continues to try to prove itself worthy of the legacy of the veterans and others like them. Maiella of Fayetteville enlisted in the Army in 1942 and spent more than 3 years in Europe fighting to drive back German forces from Africa, Italy, and France. He served with the 67th Aircraft Gun Battalion, which was assigned to a French Army unit for most of the fighting, providing artillery fire and protecting the troops from German bombers. He reached the rank of technical fifth grade during World War II and retired as a command sergeant major in 1974. Jacobs of New Bern joined the Army in January 1944 and was in Europe 6 months later with the 1st Special Service Force, a joint American-Canadian commando unit that was the precursor to today's elite special operations units in both countries. He reached the rank of private first class while fighting in Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Czechoslovakia. He also assisted in the liberation of southern France and Norway before the end of the war. Center of Fayetteville reached the rank of private first class while serving with the 83rd Infantry Division. He arrived in France 2 days after D-Day and fought in hedgerow battles in Normandy before moving on to Germany. Irby of Raleigh left the Army as a first lieutenant after serving with the 6th Armored Division in Europe. He fought in France and Germany and helped liberate French troops from a prisoner of war camp. Larry Hall, North Carolina Secretary of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, said the honors were a sign of the great relationship France and America continue to enjoy. He praised the veterans for their service and sacrifice, saying they were heroes walking among us.
To receive agricultural honors, Zach Dale is named Young Farmer of the Year, while Wayne Collier is inducted into the Cumberland County Agricultural Hall of Fame. Two Cumberland County farmers, one young and one who turned 64 today, received honors Friday for their contributions to agriculture. 27-year-old Zach Dale was named the 2017 Cumberland County Young Farmer of the Year, and Wayne Collier, who has a lifetime of involvement in farming and is known as the Melon King of Northern Cumberland County, was inducted into the Cumberland County Agricultural Hall of Fame. The awards were announced to a crowd of about 150 during a luncheon sponsored by the Kiwanis Club at Fayetteville and the Cumberland County Cooperative Extension, capping the Kiwanis annual Farm City Week. Farm City Week is designed to remind urban dwellers of the importance of agriculture. Dale and Collier grew up in agriculture. Dale is a fifth-generation farmer. A biography provided that Banquin said his great-great-grandfather helped bring flue-cured tobacco to Cumberland County. Flue-cured tobacco is the prime type of tobacco grown in North Carolina today and is one of the crops that Dale and his family continue to produce. Their farm is near Wade, Dale said, which is in northeastern Cumberland County. In addition to tobacco, the Dales grow cucumbers, soybeans, and wheat. I've always loved it, Dale said. It taught me hard work and responsibility. He said farming is a good way to be raised and to raise a family. Being the Young Farmer of the Year has become a Dale family tradition. Dale's father, James Rooster Dale, received the plaudit in 1992, and his brother, J.R. Dale, was 2016's Young Farmer. Collier said he doesn't feel worthy of being inducted into the Hall of Fame because I'm not a real farmer anymore. Although he leases much of his land to other farmers, Collier still grows watermelons, which he sells in the summers in Linden from the back of a 1966 pickup truck. He also has 16 acres of hay and manages timberland, he said. But for years, Collier raised hogs and grew row crops before leasing his land to others and taking a job as a letter carrier for the U.S. Postal Service. We still live on the family farm, which was purchased in 1877 by my great-great-grandfather Zachariah, Collier said. Although Collier pulled back from farming, he stayed involved in organizations involving rural life, including the Cumberland County Livestock Association, the Cumberland County Farm Advisory Board, and the Farm Bureau. He is an elected soil and water conservation supervisor. Collier said he has enjoyed working with youth in numerous farm-connected programs, such as the FFA and the Soil and Water Conservation Districts at the Envirothon competitions. He thinks those experiences helped put him into the Hall of Fame.
Homelessness and hunger stand down. It's a short article. United Way of Cumberland County held its annual Community Homeless and Hunger Stand Down on Friday at WVW Post 6018 on Chant Street. The event served as a one-stop location for services for homeless veterans, individuals, and families of those who are at risk of being homeless. Participants received a free lunch, haircuts, flu shots, and information on various topics.
Okay.
Big piece, but short article.
Shoebox Drive winding down. The nicest Christmas gifts are the ones given without expectation of anything in return. For nearly 20 years, Samaritan's Purse Operation Christmas Child has given individuals and churches across the Cape Fear region a chance to share a small token of love that means the world to children around the world. Several locations in the Fayetteville area are serving as drop-off sites for the Samaritan's Purse project, joining nearly 5,000 U.S. locations collecting the gift-filled shoeboxes. During the project's National Collection Week, which began November 13th and continues through Monday, Fayetteville, residents will transform empty shoeboxes into gifts of hope, filled with school supplies, hygiene items and toys. Operation Christmas Child will deliver the shoeboxes to children affected by war, disease, disaster, poverty, and famine. This year, Fayetteville area residents hope to contribute more than 27,000 shoebox gifts toward the 2017 global goal of 12 million children, officials said. For more information on how to participate, call 800-353-5949 or go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. Participants can donate $9 per shoebox gift online through Follow Your Box and receive a tracking label to discover its destination. Those who prefer the convenience of online shopping can browse SamaritansPurse.org/build online to select gifts matched to a child's specific age and gender, then finish packing the virtual shoebox by adding a photo and personal note. If you'd like to take part in this year's Christmas project, here are the drop-off locations. In Fayetteville, we have Cedar Falls Baptist Church, 6181 Ramsey Street. Today they're open from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sunday they're open from noon to 3 p.m. and Monday they're open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. In Spring Lake, we have the First Baptist Church located at 201 South Main Street. They're open today from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Sunday from 1 to 5:30 p.m., and Monday from 9 to 11 a.m. In Lillington, we have the Crossroads Church located at 1301 South Main Street. Today from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m., and Monday from 8 to 10 a.m. And then in Sanford, we have the Jonesboro Heights Baptist Church located at 316 West Main Street. They're open today from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m., and Monday from 9 a.m. to noon.
As scandal topple powerful, why not Trump? You can do anything, Donald Trump once boasted, speaking of groping and kissing unsuspecting women. Maybe he could, but not everyone can. The candidate who openly bragged about grabbing women's private parts, but denied he really did so, was elected president months before the cascading sexual harassment allegations that have been toppling the careers of powerful men in Hollywood, business, the media, and politics. He won even though more than a dozen women accused him of sexual misconduct, and roughly half of all our voters said they were bothered by his treatment of women, according to exit polls. Now, as one prominent figure after another takes a dive, the question remains, why not Trump? A lot of people who voted for him recognized that he was what he was, but wanted a change, and so they were willing to go along, theorizes Jessica Leeds, one of the first women to step forward and accuse Trump of groping her decades ago on an airplane. The charges leveled against him emerged in the supercharged thick of the 2016 campaign, when there was so much noise and chaos that they were just another episode for voters to try to absorb or tune out. When you have a Mount Everest of allegations, any particular allegation is very hard to get traction on, says political psychologist Stanley Renson. And Trump's unconventional candidacy created an entirely different set of rules. Trump is immune to the laws of political physics because it's not his job to be a politician, it's his job to burn down the system, says Eric Denzelhall, a crisis management expert in Washington. Now, Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, accused of assaulting teenage girls when he was in his 30s, is waiving that same alternative rule book. Long a ban to establishment Republicans, Moore is thumbing his nose at calls by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and other GOP members of Congress to drop out of the campaign, and accusing them of trying to steal the race from his loyal insurgents. As for Trump, the president who rarely sits out a feeding frenzy, is selectively aiming his Twitter guns at those under scrutiny. He quickly uploaded on Democrat Al Franken after the Minnesota senator was accused Thursday of forcibly kissing and groping a Fox TV sports correspondent, now a Los Angeles radio anchor, during a 2006 USO tour. Yet Trump has been largely mum as Washington Republicans try to figure out what to do about Moore. McConnell and company have zero interest in welcoming an accused child molester to their ranks, nor in seeking their slim 52-48 Senate majority grow even thinner should Moore lose to Democrat Doug Jones in a special election December 12. Trump did not support moves by the National Republican Party to cut off money for Moore, but it hasn't said whether he still backs Moore's candidacy. Spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders, pressed repeatedly on the matter this week, could say only that Trump thinks that the people of Alabama should make the decision on who their next senator should be. As for the allegations against Moore, Sanders said Trump finds them very troubling. As for Franken, presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway told Fox News that Trump had merely weighed in as he does on the news of the day when jabbing at the senator. But Trump's broadsides at Franken served as an open invitation for critics to revisit his own history of alleged sexual misconduct. Leeds, for her part, called the president the walking definition of hypocrisy. Look no further than the bipartisan howl that greeted Ivanka Trump's statement this week about Moore for a demonstration of the perilous cross currents around Trump on the issue. There's a special place in hell for people who prey on children, Trump's daughter told the AP, adding that she had no reason to doubt the victims' accounts. She did not call for Moore to lead the race. Liberals and conservatives both pounced. Those on the left noted that she had waited a week to chime in and had never given similar credits to the claims of her father's accuser. Some on the right faulted her for buying into unproven accusations. Liberal movie director Robert Reiner tweeted, "Ivanka believes Roy Moore's accusers, but the more than 12 women who accuses her father of sexual abuse are all liars." The difference is, and that's a question mark. The sexual assault drama is playing out as a painful sequel for Leeds and other women who came forward during the 2016 presidential campaign to accuse Trump of harassment and more, only to see him elected president anyway. "My pain is every day," Jill Harth, a former business associate who claimed Trump put his hands under her dress during a business dinner in 1992, tweeted in October, "No one gets it unless it happens to them. No one." It's the same for those who accused former President Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct. Their charges once written off, a bimbo eruption. "I am now 73. It never goes away," nurse Juanita Broderick says, who accused Clinton of raping her in 1978. Allegations of womanizing, extramarital affairs, and abuse dogged Clinton over the course of his political life, culminating and also in his 1998 impeachment and acquittal over his affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky. He also agreed to an $850,000 settlement with Arkansas state worker Paula Jones, who had accused him of exposing himself and making indecent propositions when he was governor. The settlement included no apology or admission of guilt. Leading feminist and Democratic groups stayed loyal to him throughout, though some are rethinking that stance now. Even in the current charged environment, when every new allegation can produce screaming headlines, Trump may well be able to go his own way and take a hands-off approach to Moore. Trump's base likes him when he's gratuitously ornery, insulting war heroes, Gold Star families, and the disabled have all been good for him. So what does he gain by strongly opinioning on Moore, says Denson Hall? Nothing that I can see. So as a guideline, he doesn't need to do all that much.
This concludes our reading of the Fayetteville Observer. Your radio hosts have been Dr. Shanessa Fenner and
Joan Townsend.
At 4 p.m. you can hear Off the Bookshelf. Additionally, you will hear a rebroadcast of today's Fayetteville Observer tonight at 9 p.m. We will now join the Raleigh Network for additional news of interest. Thank you for tuning us in. We've enjoyed being with you this morning. Have a wonderful day.
How do you turn this off? James. I forgot how to turn it off. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.